you've been doing all this great stuff in terms of the appearances that you do, the stuff at the firehouse, but what do you got cooking up now for, this coming sort of Halloween season as we track into September and October?
Oh, grand plans this year. So, I mean, October, as you would imagine, October is just out of control busy. So a couple years ago, I mean, the whole point when I gutted the back out to custom, I had mentioned I want to be able to bring this experience to other Ghostbuster fans, right? So like for me, it's a thrill to own the car. Everyone's not going to own an Ecto because they're so rare, but I want to be able to give somebody that kind of memory. So I had thought about it. I'm like, I would love to do tours in the city. And I had mentioned we had done the YouTube video with Matt Daniels. And I'm like, you know what? I want to go a little deeper. So I'm running something called Ghost Tours coming up this September and October on select dates. And basically what we'll do is we're going to pick you up outside the Lincoln Tunnel. You can book parties of 2 or 4 or 3. And we'll take you around to the filming sites of the locations of Ghostbusters. But on the way, I've penned some Ghostbusting stories on other monument sites. So you're going to be able to still see a lot of part of New York. So, I took Tobin Spirit Guide. I took RGB, Extreme Ghostbusters. I dug into the history of the buildings, the Empire State Building, to craft, a formidable story that we can tell you as we go. So You're not just going on a sightseeing tour. When you get in that car, your driver is a Ghostbuster. So it's a little more involved than that. And, we're in the process of shooting the final promotional trailer for it. And then we, without giving too much away, we have plans on shooting in the next couple of weeks. Think of, I guess, before you get on the Disney ride, like an Ecto safety video, fused with an airline safety video, which I know they did for Lord of the Rings. So, something like in case of a ghost haunting, there's a ghost trap under your seat and things of that nature. So, and then our guests, are welcome to bring their flight suits. You have an option to rent a flight suit for the ride. We're going to have Ecto Cooler. I know GB fans had posted the latest recipe, so I went online and bought a bunch of the ingredients. So you'll get some Ecto Cooler. You'll get a snack bag when you come on. You'll get some Twinkies. You'll get a Crunch Bar, some Cheez-Its. So, I want to incorporate as much as I can from the movies.
That sounds so fun.
Yeah, and kind of put my own spin on it. So, listen, the only thing I worry about is our girl holding up because, we're asking a lot of her to do it. Because when I had posted the teaser, I probably got about 70 requests. And then GB fans picked it up. And, like, anything they pick up, it's just like, boom. Like, I got over 450 booking requests. Yeah. And they're still kind of trickling in. So I can't accommodate all that. But, the goal is to do it this fall, see how it does. And then if it's something people have a demand for, we'll plan on doing it again next year. If we do swap out the engine in the car to make it more conducive for that.
Right. Right on. Yeah. That sounds like so much fun. I mean, it's something where I was thinking about this recently that like when I was a kid, you wouldn't have these kinds of experiences where you could go and like engage something from your fandom in this way that was kind of interactive. Right. And it's like just as an analogous thing real quick. Shout out to the Long Island Ghostbusters because they actually do this thing called Spooky Walk. That's at a place called Camp Aquatuck. It happens to be like 15 minutes from where I grew up. It was the place I went when I was a kid. That was like Halloween. We'd go there. It was like the haunted hayride and the tour. You could walk through the woods and go on a spooky walk in the woods. And there was all kinds of haunted stuff. And there's scare actors that would jump out of the woods and whatnot. Well, they do like a live bust now. Like,
oh, wow.
That event. So like they go every year, they bring their cars and they, stand out there and they figure out how to get EL wire and hang it up in the trees that turns on when their neutrino wands are up. So it looks like they're blasting stuff in the sky. And I just think that like those of you out there doing this kind of stuff that are like creating an interactive experience, is so important and so amazing. Cause like as a little kid for me, that would have been like Radio City Music Hall is having He-Man on stage. And go get some tickets to go see He-Man and She-Ra sing songs on stage, or the Ninja Turtles Coming Out of Our Shells tour. Or it was like, oh, here's a guy in a Dick Tracy mask appearing at Caldor. Which for those of you who just got a Caldor reference, you've earned your cookie for the week of being a Northeastern person from the 90s. like that's the stuff that fans are doing now and putting together is of such like high quality and consideration to curate an experience that it would be meaningful to them, right? Such that it's like better than anything we had when we were kids. So shout out to you for even thinking of this idea and doing that level of work to it, because I think that's amazing. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. Again, like I said, just trying to deliver that experience and give people a memory they can make. Again, you're hitting on two. You have the younger kids now. You have people. I'm 37. Greg's a couple of years younger. I mean, again, if my kids think it's normal that the Ecto is here, it's like, oh, the Ghostbusters started today. So, like, again, like you said, if we had that ability when we were kids, I mean, it would have been incredible. So that's what I'm trying to bring to the fan base. And, I have some plans for some other, fan groups for some other shows that I did. I'm working on a couple other cars to do the same thing. So,
Greg, are you currently hiding caches of parts around New York City along the route? So just in case you're like, we know where we left a bunch of extra equipment.
I for sure keep some tools and some parts on it. That's definitely for sure. So like Nikki was saying, I mean, I guess growing up, a lot of us went to that Universal show, the Ghostbusters Spooktacular, and, got to see the Ecto there. So it's like a lot of times it was parked. It wasn't really working right. So, and it wasn't anything close to, what you would see on film. But so, I mean, this is kind of to a whole nother level of bringing that out for the people that either never made it out to it, were too young, or, just never made it down to Florida to kind of get something that's maybe on the next level, because you're at the real firehouse. You're at the public library. So
where are some of the places you're going to go on the tour if you're going to take folks like to locations? Like, where do you're definitely going to be taking them to on a regular stop?
Yeah, so I mean the bullet point 3. I mean, we're going up to Central Park West. The tour is going to start through the Lincoln. We're going to go through Times Square, Slime Square, and then make our way up to Central Park West. We're going to shoot down to Fifth Ave for the public library. And then, we're going to make our way down to the firehouse. We have a couple of other places. I think it was the Customs Building from GB2. We're, like I said, I mean, we're going from, Central Park West all the way downtown. So we're going to hit as many sites as we possibly can.
Gotcha. Once upon a time, years ago, I was trying to help friends of the podcast. Yes, I have some, as they were in the middle of New York. They were going to do location tours, and they were also looking at toy stores. And I said, oh, you're down in the East Village. You should go by St. Mark's Place. Because I used to go to St. Mark's Place when I was a kid and go screw around and go to punk shows and stuff. That's where Ray's Occult is. I was like, that's like the storefront they use as Ray's Occult is like over there. And I sent them like, Google Streets like screenshot to be like, this is what it is. And then they talked to me afterwards a couple months later. And like, you're the one who sent us to Ray's Occult, aren't you? And I was like, yeah. Like, that was so scary. And I was like, why? I was like, and then I got to find out the neighborhood around St. Mark's Place has changed a bit, apparently, that I was not aware of. So I don't know if you're going to drive people down there, but yeah.
Hey, listen, we can always add it to the Ghost Tour agenda. So you never know.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much to see, to be frank. Like, if you drive over there, it's been converted now into, I don't know, a Wendy's. Not really. It's something else, but it's a Starbucks now.
Starbucks, yeah. So yeah, I think for most Ghostbusters fans, just being able to get because we're gonna stop at each of the 3 main, the public library, Central Park West, and then the firehouse. I just getting that shot of the firehouse with the car and you being there, and we'll have packs that you can throw on. So like people who are like, oh man, I wish I had a Proton. We're gonna have all that stuff, so you don't have to worry about that. But that shot is it's awesome because the way we angle it, you can get the World Trade Center in the back too. So it'll be a lot of fun for a lot of people, I think.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's cool that you're going to have like packs on hand for people to be able to take photos and do that kind of stuff, because you can pull in folks who are like hardcore fans who want to come and bring their own gear, but you can also pull in folks who just want to, like, we've never been able to have that experience. And it's like one day you can go do it, because I mean, to be real, like, I know that there's folks out there who listen to the podcast who have been fans of Ghostbusters forever and have been building props in their garage since they were in their teens, and now they're in their 40s. Like, but there's also people who just don't have the resources for that and who won't. And they, like, just space wise, especially in New York City, like, not everybody has a workshop, everyone. Some people just live in apartments. And so, the ability to go and vicariously have your day as a Ghostbuster, I think is really cool. It's something that especially if it's an itch you've really wanted to scratch for a long time, to be able to ride around the car, put on a Proton pack, take some photos and be like, I did that. I had a day as a Ghostbuster is a very cool thing to do. So I like this idea. I'm jealous that I'm not on the East Coast because I want to come ride around your car. But
oh, come on now, it's not June, July, or August when we're running these.
Sure, we'll fit into your temperature tolerance there, Jim. It'll be fine.
To be fair, my sister's gonna have kids like the next couple months, so I may end up back there anyway. We'll see. But
you just let us know, and because we have a couple. You know, when GB News reposted, I said, guys, you want to come down, give an honest review. I'm like, and I want honest. If you hate it, you tell people you hated it. You know, I'm not looking for any false advertising.
It'd be hard to hate. It'd be real. It'd be really hard to hate.
I mean, I don't want to say that, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. But
what would you hate? He'd be like, he gave me Cheez-Its, but they were the extra cheesy Cheez-Its. They weren't screen accurate. The Crunch Bar he gave me was not in a vintage 1983 wrapper, and it had an advertisement on it for the 2024 Olympics.
It was a mini. It was a mini. It wasn't a full size. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think it's great for everyone. I think they're going to enjoy it. And listen, I promise people, even if they're not hardcore Ghostbuster fans, the looks that you will see from people as we're driving are worth the price of admission alone. Because it's literally, people will just stop. And the cool thing is, so Greg just rewired the siren. So now I got a PA in the car, and I'm driving this thing around. So like, I'll see people taking pictures. So I'll get on the PA. I'm like, excuse me, sir, you have to Venmo me $15. I have to pay Sony for that picture. And people don't know what to do. So now I got the PA rolling. So it's going to be a good time, whether, like I said, you're that hardcore fan or not. It's going to be an enjoyable experience.
That's funny. I really think it's going to be a great time for everybody who gets involved with it. And I hope that you guys have a lot of fun doing it, because I have to say, like, if I were running that event, I think it would be a really fun thing to put together. Like, it's definitely scary to be dealing with, like, you're taking the car out in the city. You've got to deal with it being out in the city, driving around. You got to deal with, like, tell me a bit about that, because I don't want to, like, stress you out talking about it. But, like, what are some of the biggest concerns you have to have running something like this? In terms of taking a car out that's this old and kind of this iconic and hard to, just to say this, like, because I'll throw this out there. It's my biggest worry I always think about is anyone who's working on one of these cars, if anything happens to your glass, what do you do? Because it doesn't exist. It's unobtainium. I don't know. Like, what are some of the things you think are the biggest challenges of pulling this off that you think you're going to overcome?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously New York City traffic, being such a big car, it's, the mirrors don't exactly move on the car. So there's a lot of blind spots. But I mean, we plan on just kind of cruising in it a little bit. Now, with that being said, these tours are only going as far as the EctoTech can get us, mechanically speaking, because, so even after the flood, it's still all original. I mean, there have been a couple, but it's the original motor, right? So there's, there's some rusty spots from that we have to touch up over the winter. But, the ghost tours are, for the most part, in EctoTech's hands in terms of making sure she's running. So, I mean, Greg, what do you think, is the biggest concerns that we should have here?
Yeah, so I mean, it's really going to come down to, I guess the time of day that we're running and if this thing is, going to make the trips or not, before we get the engine swap and whatnot done. So it's only about a 14-mile trip for tours. So essentially, it's like if we get stuck in traffic for hours, I mean, there's a chance of a breakdown with a 70-year-old car. Even if we're kind of cruising along, it's usually 100% good to go. It's just like, I don't want to leave the thing idling in the city for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. So, I mean, basically, we're going to try to plan our time for the day and plan some alternate routes and stuff so we know we can get around to the city and get to the locations we want to get to so we can, fulfill our obligation with, the fans, because, we don't know where anybody's coming from. They could be coming out of state, out of country, from wherever, to have this experience. We want to make sure that, we give them, what we're promising them. So just like we would want.
I imagine that has to be like a concern, especially with sitting in traffic, because I'm like just thinking about cars that overheat that are old. And I'm like, wow, sitting in New York City traffic is a great way to do that, So.
Yeah. It's funny because we did the drive-in this past weekend, and they said they had actors from like another movie, and they're like, "Oh, this is the lowest maintenance celebrity we've ever had." I'm like, "No, when she's angry, she'll let you know. Let me tell you, sitting in traffic and breathing those carbon fumes in, you're sweating. Yeah, no, she'll let you know when she's not happy."
No, 100%.
Yeah.
What for you, like going out and taking the car out on a tour? What's the most exciting part of that for you? Like, what do you think is the most, I don't know, rewarding part of that for you, having come this far with the car?
I mean, for me, I don't want to sound like kicking a dead horse, but just giving that memory to somebody. Like, I still remember the first time I saw my car, on that first build when it was done, and what I felt like. So It's the faces when I pull up and they're seeing it for the first time, and then everything that kind of follows suit with it. That's really what it is for me. And people ask me all the time, "Oh, what Ghostbusters faction are you with? New Jersey, this," and I tell them all the time, I'm just a rogue guy with an Ecto, because I just belong to the Ghostbusters fan base, right? That's what the Ecto belongs to, and. Mm-hmm. The ghost tours wouldn't be possible, and I own the car, but there are so many people that involve. Like, obviously, Greg is key to the success of this car. But there have been so many people over the years that have, lend a hand, or they just tell me their story of what the car means to them. So there's so many incredible things about it, but it is just that first roll up when someone sees it and they're like, their jaw kind of drops, because that's what really does it for me.
Nice. Yeah, no, I hear that. I say this often, that like teaching for me is about watching light bulbs go on. Like, I like it because I get to see that reaction of somebody getting something for the first time. And so that experience of like pulling up and having the light bulb in somebody's heart go on of like, oh my God, it's the car. I would totally get excited about that. Yeah. Greg, what about for you? What do you think is like the most rewarding part of what you're doing?
I mean, honestly, it's exactly what Nick said. I mean, this whole thing is, it's really bigger than us. It's gotten to the point where it's like it is the whole community. It's not just really one faction. It's not really one thing. And it's like the what you're bringing to the entire fan base. It's like when you've never seen the thing before. It's it's like almost like seeing Santa Claus in person. Be like, he is real. It's like one of those things.
Wait, he's not.
You're like, oh, he's the whole sleigh's going over you, the whole thing, and that's what the lights and everyone 99.9% of the people, they're like, does it have the siren? Of course it has the siren. Let's fire it up for you. And then it's like, you can see it just, you're giving them a level of positivity that, that you just can't probably find anywhere else.
Yeah. I think I like the way you compared this to like Santa Claus being real, and this just kind of evoked something for me. I think kind of puts a good analogy on like your car. Like what you're doing and the opportunity that you're providing with the tours. As a kid, I think you both will appreciate this as people who grew up in the New York tri-state area. Like if I said Crazy Eddie, you know what I was talking about. Or Nobody Beats the Wiz. I'm like, you guys get it, but jingles. But for me as a kid, going into New York City and going to the Macy's on 34th Street was the thing, like that you did every holiday season. Like my parents would say to us, we're going in and we're going to go see Santa Claus. And we knew as kids that meant the real one. We knew the other ones existed at the other malls and stuff, right? Like, but as kids, those mall Santas were like helpers. They were people part of a network of distributed Santa Claus reporters. I don't know, however my parents explained it. They were like, they're basically the mail order Santas who are going to take your order back to Santa. We're going to take you to the real guy because we care. And I'm like, that's awesome. And for us, it was always about going to Macy's because of two things. One, he was the Santa Claus on TV. We saw him during the parade. And two, if you've ever been to Macy's on 34th Street during the holiday season, they take the entire basement and basically convert it into this insane North Pole experience that takes an hour for you to walk through. But that like you are in line going to go get your photo taken, but you don't care because you are in the North Pole, right? Like, and there are elves that walk up to you and talk to you and things. And you're like, this is amazing. And to me, like, I think of your car and what you're talking about as a tour as being the equivalent of that. This is not to slag on anybody else who has an Ecto. Don't take it personally. If you're out there and you're like, I have a 1993 Cadillac with a North Star, and I'm like, I'm sorry about your engine, and also good work for putting it in an Ecto and prepare for a big mechanics bill. But I digress. But the point being, I've learned enough from car YouTube after a while. Yay for me. But the point being that I think about what you're trying to do with this level of authenticity and interactive experience as being very much like proving to me that Santa Claus is real, right? That like that experience for my parents was about taking us somewhere where it was going to be very difficult for us to question the legitimacy of Santa Claus because it wasn't the mall, right? It was the actual experience. And so if that was a long-winded way to come about saying that, I'm sorry, but I think that
that was the right way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll add to that real quick for you because a little bit of irony concerning you just said the same thing I was thinking. So we're out at the drive-in. I'm waiting for Nick to come back out so we can get the car set up for the triple feature. And they have a leave a VHS, take a VHS in like an old style Blockbusters box. And the only movie in there was Miracle on 34th Street. And I thought the same thing that you just said. So that was a little irony, but yeah. So a kid walked up to us while we were standing there prepping, and I believe his name might have been Julian, and he had a flight student on in a pack and all that. And he goes, "Is this the real Ecto-1?" Gotta be right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's kind of silly to think about it, but it's like that level of authenticity in what you're doing at the build level, but then also like researching and going, okay, how do we build a story around this? How do you take, from, hey, we could drive you from location to location, be like, yep, there it is. That's, Spook Central. It's 55 Central Park West, whatever it is. Yep. That's Columbus Circle over there. You see that big arch thingy? Yep. That was in the movie too. Like, but as opposed to researching different ghost stories along the route and sort of building that into a paranormal experience, I think is so cool. So I really, as much as I sort of joke about being jealous, I'm like, I wish I could come do this. Cause I imagine it's gonna be a lot of fun, but yeah. So good on you. I'm really looking forward to hearing about it.
Yeah, I again, if things go like I would hope they would, and we do that LS swap, I think kind of the sky's the limit, because if we have a traditional engine in the Ecto and we know it's going to be reliable, we'll do it all day long, and then plus we'll have AC, for a change. So, yeah, disclaimer: anyone coming on the tour, no AC in the car, so hopefully it's a little chilly in October. But yeah, no. And, whenever you're out this way, you just let us know, happily pick you up, and, we'll pick you up from the airport in the Ecto. That's all good.
You don't really want to do that. You don't really want to drive the Ecto to JFK and be like, hey, let's come down to the JetBlue terminal and fight against the cabbies.
Over to Newark, so it's a little closer.
Yeah. I'll come to Newark. That's better.
Happened,
Have you? You've done an airport pickup in the Ecto?
I did a train pickup for the gentleman John. He's with the Orlando Ghostbusters. He has they call it the Ecto-1B, so it's converted to a 59 Miller, and he came up to visit me with his wife, and I ended up picking up from the train station at Ecto because I was already at work with it, and he goes, I'm coming off the train right now. I said, well, you're in for a treat, brother, because this is the car I have. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny because when you drive the Ecto enough, like, in October, then I get in my regular car and I'm like, hey, no one's looking at me. Like, this is weird. Like, oh, this car sucks. I want my Ecto back.
Yeah, or somebody staring at you at a traffic light for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're like, well, they're looking at. Oh wait, no, I don't have the Ecto. Why are they looking at me? Yeah, so it's funny what the Ecto will do to you in your the mind games that will play with you. But yeah, anytime. Listen, the offer is open anytime you're around. Just let us know.